So my next one, number 6, we're on the countdown. David versus Goliath. Any thoughts on this one? This is the next common training mistake made by athletes. Any guesses?
Too much, too fast?
Too much, too fast? Something like that. I'm thinking big guy, little guy. Okay, so in terms of going for size, not performance. So what I've seen way too many times over the years is getting the athletes into the workout and they forget why they're there. So I'm a strength coach. I'm a full-time strength coach. I've been doing this for over a decade. And you get these athletes in there, and my job is to enhance their sport performance, right? And do this from physical training, do this with physical training. So they get in there and they decide that instead of training for triathlon or volleyball, they want to become the next He-Man and say things like, make me a specimen, I want bigger biceps, things like that, right? Well, so remember why you're training. If you're an athlete, these are common training mistakes made by athletes. If you're a bodybuilder, you're training for size, for definition, for aesthetics. If you're an athlete, you're training for performance. You might be training for certain lateral movement, jumping higher. You might need more strength for certain things. So having the mistake of going for size, not performance, and this is another little tag line I like to say, is that form follows function. So if you're training a certain way for a certain amount of time, typically the physical form will follow that continual behavior pattern and that function. So typically I'm seeing men trying to bulk up more and women worrying about gaining too much muscle mass, but slowly and surely as the athletes get better and more professional, they realize that they are kind of honing into what their sport needs if there's training properly for their sport versus always thinking about the aesthetics. And I was having a conversation earlier, ultimately the higher level you get in sport, typically the body type gets kind of honed in the higher you get to sport. So what I'm trying to say is that you don't see a huge muscle-bound distance runner. You don't see a really lean, skinny sprinter. The body types tend to go with the function that they're training. So ultimately, your solution on this one, focusing on the behaviors that are beneficial for the sport. So the more those behaviors are focused on, then the outcomes will follow. Realizing that too much muscle mass or too little can be detrimental to performance in that sport.